to 10-Minute Talks. I'm Allison LaForgia, managing editor of HousingWire's content studio, and today's episode is about something that's often treated as a line item, but rarely is what it actually is: a powerful brand experience. My guest is Jessica Reed, VP of Marketing, Brand, Recruiting, and Partnerships at AnnieMac Home Mortgage. Jessica has a sharp point of view on events, not just as one-off moments, but as living, breathing extensions of a brand that can either build or break trust. Jessica, welcome to 10-Minute Talks.
Thanks. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so glad to have you here. The idea for this episode started with an absolutely fantastic LinkedIn post of yours, and there were several things that stuck out to me about it. But there's one line that you wrote, which is, "How you show up in person is what sticks." And I thought that that was fantastic. And one of the first things I want to talk about today in line with that is you mentioned that events should be looked at as brand strategy and not tactics, and that they're really underrated brand tools. Where do you see most companies fundamentally miscalculating their impact when they plan them in more like line items instead of as brand moments?
Yeah, I think a lot of people think events are really easy and you just show up, you sponsor, you leave, but events are really felt when you walk in the door. And I think that's something that I always take into consideration when we're planning an event. This is an experience more than it is an event. And so when people walk through the door, you want them to feel that. You want every moment to be memorable. My goal is always to have somebody walk away being like, wow, I can't wait until next year, or I got so much out of this. I can't wait to take what I learned today and go apply it tomorrow. And just having that moment, and almost like think of it as like an Instagrammable moment at the same time too. Like, people want to go and post this. They want to leverage it to support your overall brand, which I think is really important. Because then, you get the momentum going of this overall success of the event too. If people want to talk about it, they want to post about it. It does become this moment in time for your brand where people can truly experience it live. I think a lot of people think brand is, what you say we are, but this is a moment in time where people can actually in real life experience your brand by being a part of your event.
Let's dig in more to that felt brand experience. What are some ways that an event can either reinforce or even undermine a brand's perception?
Yeah, I think, when people walk through the door and find that like feeling that they're looking for, when you go and you get this feeling of, oh, I'm home, or, oh, I can't wait to learn about it. I think a lot of it also has to do with how you communicate leading up to the event as well. Having proper communication, promoting the event, getting people excited for it, I also think sets the tone for the feeling that people are going to have when they go and attend your event. So I think that sometimes that can also be missed, but it's also a really key detail into setting the stage early on for having that feeling you want people to have when you walk through the doors. So I think it's just, proper planning ahead of time, and then knowing your audience of who's going to be there when they walk through that door. So whether it's your loan officers or your sales leaders or branch managers or the entire company, what do we want these people to take away? Almost the moment they walk through the door of, oh, wow, this is the best sales summit we've ever had, or this is the best gathering that we've ever had this year. I'm so excited, because they've really set the stage ahead of time. And then the moment they walk through that door, that the feeling matches, kind of what they already had in their head based off what you've been communicating with them.
I feel like sometimes those are also the moments that you love in person that then become the talked about moments when everybody's home.
100%.
I think one of the interesting things when you look at just like not only that when you walk in the door moment is that take home moment, and thinking about both options, how people feel about things afterwards. And then it almost becomes that event then intentionally or unintentionally, or that moment intentionally or unintentionally becomes marketing for the brand itself and for the event for future occurrences. What's your take on that?
No, I totally agree. And that's kind of what I mentioned, like that Instagrammable moment of when you set the stage for what the event is going to be and you get there and the expectation is met and hopefully even exceeded, people want to post about it. They want to promote, oh my gosh, look at what my company is doing. This is so amazing. And I think leveraging, your audience for that event reinforces your brand identity because you have these people in mind. You have your brand in mind when you're planning this event altogether. So when people get there and the energy matches that, they want to promote it. They want to talk about it. They want to talk about what they learned from the event and what they are taking home from it. And I think post event as well, people are going to want to continue talking about it. So not only are they going to get this really awesome feeling when they walk in the door, but as long as you have all of those people in mind when you're planning the event from start to finish, that energy is going to carry through the event. They're going to have these really awesome takeaways, and then they're going to continue promoting the event afterwards, which then in turn promotes your company, it promotes your brand, it promotes what you stand for. And I think that's something really important. And I think that is something people don't maybe take into consideration when planning the event. It's like, okay, we have these moments, we have these takeaways, we're planning the content, but then afterwards, hopefully, it's going to carry and have some longevity to it.
You also mention or pose people to think about those small, maybe even occasionally almost unnoticed details that can be difference makers. Can you share an example of a subtle choice that had an outsized effect on how a brand can be remembered?
Yeah. I think it can come down to as small as like people are walking down an escalator or walking downstairs, and the way in which you flow the event, the way in which you order your speakers, I think matters. And people don't take that into consideration, or it's something, as an attendee, you wouldn't think about. And it's not their job to think about it. It's our job to think about it for them. So I think it's really important, for when we plan our sales summit event each year for our entire sales organization and company, we're really thinking about the speakers we want on stage and in what order. We want to keep that energy up for our sales field. And we want it to be, speakers that are really going to resonate with them. And so I think just even down to the flow in which you're organizing an agenda, you're organizing the timing, the flow of the actual event itself. You walk here, you want them to check in, but then you immediately want them to go to this next steps area. Just those small little details that if they were missing, they would be noticed, but because they're there, it just feels natural.
I think that that is such a fantastic point that sometimes gets overlooked in that curation piece of it. And it's those little things that can really have, like I said, that outsized effect. So let's end with discussing what the potential risk is here when people are thinking of skipping in-person events as a strategic move. For brands that could default to digital first marketing, I'd love to hear from you the strategic risk of underinvesting in these in-person experiences and how that shows up for them in long-term brand trust, recruiting, or even partnerships.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think now more than ever, people are craving these in-person moments to build those relationships. And I think there are layers to relationships, and going in person allows you to kind of advance those steps faster. You're able to build trust quicker. You're able to have deeper conversations, and it feels a little more natural. And I think it just, adds that layer of trust in a sense. I think digital is great. Everyone should have it. Everyone is doing it. But I think there is something to be said about meeting in person, building that relationship one-on-one, getting to know the brand, getting to know the company, what matters to the, for us, for example, like we're such a people first organization. Meeting in person really is a difference maker. You get to see our leadership. You get to meet the people, that really set AnnieMac apart. So I think if you skip an event because you think, oh, well, maybe it's not worth it, or, oh, we'll just meet virtually, I think you're doing yourself a true disservice, because you might have a differentiator or something that really sets you apart, and that might be missed if you aren't willing to take that step of doing an in-person event.
Jessica, thank you so much for joining me today. I love how you frame events as moments where a brand can really set itself apart as a differentiator and where trust is built. Thank you so much for sharing how you think about experience, intention, and details that most people overlook but really remember. And thank you to everyone for listening. If this conversation resonated, take a look at the events that you're hosting or attending and ask yourself, what will people actually remember about this?